Problem is a blessing because it's like getting the hook on stage when you're not doing a good job. It just lets you know. If you listen, it lets you know this ain't right.
The problem is designed to bring us closer to God. It's designed to help us learn how to live. It's designed to show us what it means to be enlightened.
There was a little boy who was a real bully, who had a lot of difficulty with it, and he was terrorizing his parents. He was 5. And I was really concerned about him because he just enjoyed being mean. So I only had him for 1 year, but we worked very hard at understanding the difference between good ideas and ideas that didn't work so well. And eventually I made 2 little signs, one that said peaceful and the other that said bully. I had wished that they'd be more grammatically compatible, and every now and then I would drop one of them in front of him as I observed his behavior, making sure to do it evenly.
There are 2 fundamental questions which are they are the basic diving board for healing in metapsychiatry. What is the meaning of what seems to be? And what really is?
So he taught us not to just go with the way things seem to be to us, but to stand back and to ask, what's the meaning? What's the meaning of this problem, this feeling, this illness, this disturbance, this situation? And the meaning was really asking, what beliefs am I holding? How do I think life works? Who do I think I am?
Eventually, what were you thinking when you hit Josie or took her pencil or were mean to her on the playground? What thought did you have? The child would say, well, I don't know. And I would say, well, we need to know. We need to know those ideas that are behind what we do.
For example, if you're angry, then what is anger? We would ask. What is the meaning of this experience? What is that anger? And anger is a thought, but it's a very specific thought. It's an emotional reaction to not getting what we want.
So I worked with this little boy to get to the point where he could identify the idea. What was the idea that was manifesting in his behavior, which of course is what is the meaning of what seems to be. And in the springtime, sometime around the end of May, he brought me the little sign that said bully and said, I think we can rip this up now. Isn't that fabulous? And I've seen him around school, and he's a happy child.
I used to have horrible nightmares after Mom died, just of the car. I saw the car that my parents had been in, and then I had the police report. I just had too much information, and so I'd have these horrible nightmares, sort of recreating it, or how my mother looked after the accident. And Ruth would say, well, these are images and ideas that are coming up to be healed. So you can't repress them. They're going to come up to be healed, and that's actually a blessing. So that was a new idea to me as well, that, nightmares or upsetting thoughts are a blessing, but they're being delivered to be healed, to be released.
I think the most important story for me in my life has been the death of my husband. So 9/11 happened, and I was a teacher, and I was pulled out of class into the headmaster's office, and slowly but surely, as he spoke, and began to dawn on me what was happening, and some people, some very close friends all showed up. They had no business being there. And at one point, everybody was out of the office, and I was there, and the radio was on, and I heard the announcer talk about the Pentagon had just been hit. And that was really the first realization that people have been saying, well, maybe it was a mistake or something. And then I realized that something big was happening. And at that moment, I just kind of shut down. I shut down my humanity. I mean, I shut down my humanness and turned straight to the good of God, and just got very, very quiet inside, and called my daughter, who said on the other end of the phone, "Oh, Mom!" I said, "Louise, are you watching television?" And she said, yes, she was. I said, well, turn off the television, because wherever Dad is, whether he's dead or alive, he's in the middle of a big transition. And he needs all the loving thoughts that we can give him. Sorry. So I called my son Jamie, and we had essentially the same conversation, that we really needed to behold Dad, and that's a term that comes up in metapsychiatry, but that we needed to behold Ben as surrounded by wisdom and love and intelligence for wherever he was, that he needed the best ideas that God could provide. So then I left the school. I dismissed the kids and left the school, and as I was leaving the school, people were saying, oh, you know, and there were all these temptations to move away from this stance, but this quietness and this solidarity within me, this just complete reliance on the good of God, without having to know very much. That's what was my job at that point, to do the best thing I could do for my husband. So I drove all the way home. I never turned on the radio. It was about a half-hour drive. And when I got here, there were people in the house already, and the television was on, and I never looked at the television. I just was extremely quiet and did what I had to do. I'd made a few phone calls, but I never looked at the television. And just held him in that quiet place. And of course, that was wonderful. And I think the peace that was established in my soul, consciousness, around that event carried me through the rest of the time. And I still feel that. And the loveliest thing was that when there was a bombing in London, you know, the subway was bombed and the bus was bombed, my daughter, Louisa, called me up and she said, Mom, I'm holding all those people, the ones who have died and the ones who are left, in prayer, just the way we did with Dad. I thought that was so fabulous.